Thank you so much, Jen, and it's absolutely fantastic to be part of such an exciting event. I'm just going to say a few words, and I'm going to pass over to Fernanda, who is the brains of the operation today. But I wanted to say before I did that WWF are absolutely delighted to have been supporting CAP this year. Climate change as an issue connects us all across the world, and it is by working together across borders to find solutions that we will be able to shape a future in which future generations can not only live without fear of climate change, but also live better lives as humans. We're not just about trying to find ways to avert disaster. We can actually define a future where we can be healthier, we can be happier, and our lives can be more enriching. So, as daunting as the climate crisis is, we know that the technology and the knowledge that we need to address it already exists. And I know that those of you who've been working on the issues around climate change for the last 6 weeks will have come to that conclusion. And I know that you've come up with some incredible solutions yourself. In a way, it's like we have a big pile of Lego in front of us, and I really wish I had a pile of Lego to use as a prop right now, having seen the ducks earlier. And in that pile of Lego, we have everything that we need to create something fantastic, something beautiful, something that does the job we need. And we could leave it as a big pile of bricks. It is just a pile of bricks. It's not doing what we need it to do right now. Or we could simply throw together something that does the job, but it's not beautiful, it's not clever, we're not proud of it. But we have another option available to us. We can think about the future that we want. We can think about what we want to build with that random assortment of Lego bricks. We can imagine something that is possible, and then we can work together to build something truly spectacular. So the bricks are there. The hands that will shape that future are ours. But perhaps more importantly, they are yours. It's something which is taking us into the future. At WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, we are very much science-led as an organization. So my mission and that of other educators at WWF is to ensure that this science is accessible and it's understood by the younger generation today. But most importantly, that science is understood in the way that people understand what it means for them, what it means for them now, and what it will mean for them in the future. And so to that end, we're really excited that we've been involved in the Climate Action Project, particularly helping to develop foundational climate change curriculum that hopefully has been useful to schools that have taken part this year, but will also help teachers to take the knowledge and the understanding of climate change into classrooms the world over as the years go on. And projects like this and the work of all teachers that bring science and inspire thinking around these big issues are so important. As the climate changes, so must we. But how we change and what this means for the future, that is really up to us. We can define that future. And we've seen in recent years, for better and in some cases for worse, that one idea or one leader can change the world. Just one big idea, one impactful leader. And that next idea could be yours. The next leader could be you. And through projects like Climate Action Project and with the support of inspiring teachers, you have the opportunity to gain the skills and the knowledge you need to be that force for change that the world needs. So you've started on that journey. I'm absolutely delighted with the scale of impact this project promises to have in the years to come. But that's enough from me. I'm just an educator. I shouldn't say that on a project like this. I am an educator, I'm proud. But I'm delighted to be joined by someone who's walking the walk and talking the talk around climate change action. So we're joined from Brazil by Fernanda Carvalho, and I'll pass over to her now. Thank you.
Okay. So
at the moment, it's my screen that's shared. Could we share Fernanda's screen, please?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to share mine, but mine is showing you. So that's, let me see if I can fix this.
It's now your screen, Fernanda. So if you just bring your slideshow up, it will be on screen.
Okay, thank you. Huh, wrong ones. Can you see them?
Yeah, you just need to put it into slide. That's it.
Okay, so all right. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Fernanda Carvalho. I'm based in Brazil. I work for WWF International as the global policy manager for our climate and energy practice. And my idea today here was to talk to you about climate change and what to do about it. We are going to talk a little bit about what WWF is doing, but I also want to highlight a little bit what you can do, as Sandrine has mentioned. So it's a pleasure to be here today. What is WWF? Who is WWF? I'm sure you all associate us with this cute panda down here. We are the panda. The panda is our symbol, and we are proud of it. And our mission is to work for a future where people and nature can thrive together. And to get there, we work with forests, we work with oceans, fresh water, wildlife, of course, climate change, and food. That's how we divide our work. And our work on climate and energy is basically those points that I'm going to speak a little bit about. So we do put pressure on governments. We participate on the COPs that you have heard about. We try to influence negotiators at the COP. We have it's called the Panda Hub. It's a pavilion where we do a whole program to try to highlight what is important for us and things that we are doing, showcase our projects. But more than that, we work with our national offices. We are present in virtually all countries of the world to try to convince their governments to take climate action. And a good thing is that we have very recently been joined by youth. Of course, youth is out there for a long time, but since Greta came on board, this movement became stronger, and it's a very welcome force that has been helping us a lot. We also work with business to try to convince them to take on targets to reduce emissions that are based on science. We help people and nature to adapt because we know climate change adaptation is a reality. It's not only about mitigation anymore. We have to deal very strongly with adaptation and resilience. We create strong alliances since we have, this ability of talking from people, from students to businesses to other organizations like us and to politicians. We try to build alliances to get strong results and further impact on the ground. And it's also very important for us, as Matt already shared, to share information on climate science and policy, because we know this is a very complicated world at times, and we want people to understand what we are talking about and why those things are really important for us. So this is an example of how we put pressure on governments. We are doing this campaign called the NDCs We Want. NDCs are nationally determined contributions, or the climate plans that governments have to put forward. And we know that they had to do it by the end of this year, 2020. And this process, unfortunately, has been delayed by COVID. But this is a very important thing for climate ambition, because basically the sum of those NDCs this year will decide if we are to stay on a path to 1.5 global warming or not. So what we are doing is analyzing those NDCs, and we are ranking them from the NDCs we don't want, that would be the red ones, like, for example, here, Japan and New Zealand, to the NDCs we want, the green ones, the good ones that we see here from Rwanda, also from Suriname. So, and in this website that you have the link here, we have a whole analysis of why we are ranking the NDCs like that. So this is something that countries will look at, and then they will have our feedback. And that's also useful to others to try to push for the things that we are asking for, to have good NDCs. So it's just an example of what we have been doing so far. Another example is the Living Planet report. I don't know if you have heard about it, but this is a document that it's a very comprehensive study that we produce every single year. That is a health check for the planet that takes every 2 years. Sorry, I said every single year, but it takes place every 2 years. So every 2 years, we do this comprehensive assessment. And it's really nice. If you want to take a look, there is lots of information in the website of the Living Planet report. It's livingplanet.org. So what is the Living Planet's index? They produce an index. And what is it telling us? The news this year, unfortunately, are not good, as many of the speakers already told you. It's a problem that we have on biodiversity also. It's not only on climate change that we are having a crisis. And what this report is saying is that the average population of animals, mammals, fish, birds, reptiles, and amphibians has had a significant decline since the 70s, around which I was born. So from that time till now, we have lost 68% of our animal populations. That's very sad news, because all of us would want to be in a path towards recovering those populations. And what's happening is that they are declining. So first we need to stabilize such populations, and then we need to focus on recovery. So it's a very serious picture that it's being painted by this Living Planet report, unfortunately. And when we look at it, when we look at the causes of it, it's very unfortunate to say that we are the cause for such a nature decline since the 70s. And it's very important to highlight that climate change is putting pressure on ecosystems. So this is one of the drivers, not the only one, but a key one. 30% of all land is used for agriculture. This loss of nature has economic impacts. We are losing biodiversity that is essential for food security. 1/3 of all food is lost or wasted, and we need nature, because nature underpins our health and well-being. So this is not good news that nature is declining, but we can also act to restore nature. So it's still time for us to act and try to reverse this very sad situation that not only affects our climate, but also our nature. So when we talk about climate change risks to biodiversity, I don't have a prop here like Sandrine did, and I'm not meaning to compete, but I have this cute picture of this rodent here that unfortunately is no longer among us. This is the first mammal that was extinct from climate change reasons. The Bramble K. malamis is his name. Malamis rubicula is his scientific name. And this is very sad news that this report this year is pointing out to us that one species has already been lost to climate change. And there is scientific confirmation of that. This is very, very sad. And the saddest about it is that it's not only this single species, up to 1/5 of wild species are at risk of becoming extinct because of climate change. So we really need to fight to reverse this situation. And I'm counting on all of you that are watching us. And this is why we're going to talk about what you can do to help. So there are a list of things that you can do, and some of them have already been mentioned here. Being more efficient and energy efficient is an important one. We know that heating and cooling are ways of using energy that are very, very energy intensive. They require lots of energy. So if you think carefully to use heating only when you really need it and cooling the same thing, that's a strong contribution that you will be playing. Electric appliances, they have information on the amount of electricity that they use. So it's important that you start paying attention to that to make the right choices. Choosing renewable energy, of course, when you can. It depends on which country we are or what are the circumstances. But if you can use solar heating, use solar panels in your house, or demand that your school uses renewable energy, solar energy or wind energy is also a very important way to help. Using alternative transport has already been mentioned here. If you can use collective transportation, that's better than just driving your car or being one person in a car to get to work. And this way, you're also contributing to the quality of life of people in the city, to the traffic, to better traffic in the city. Use your bike. Biking is so cool. I love biking, and it's also good for your health. So you're contributing not only for the planet health, but also to your own health. Eating selectively, which is something that we will explore further. As an example, recycling. I mean, I hope all of you know about it, especially this generation, because this is key for our planet. Plastics, we know, are a big, big threat. And so reducing the use of single plastics, fantastic. But if we have to use materials such as plastic, glass, and aluminum. It's important that we recycle. Of course, spreading the word is key. Talk about it to your friends, to your family, to your community. Nothing is too small. No contribution is too small. Any contribution that you can do to save the environment or thinking about climate change will be valuable. And you are also a source of knowledge. Don't count only on WWF and others. Think of yourself as a source of knowledge and a source of influencing the behavior of your community, your neighbors, your family. And of course, make smart political choices. We can't avoid talking about the big thing nowadays, that's the US election. There is an opportunity there that a candidate that's more committed to the environment might win, but this may be also something that you need to think about in the future, and not only for presidential elections, for electing the people who represent you. And now try to see what their proposals are, if they worry about the environment, what they are proposing for the environment, it's important. So our example here, when we talk about eating selectively, is what WWF is calling planet-based diets. So we produce lots of materials that were recently launched about this. And why are we thinking about planet-based diets? First of all, in the context of climate change, it is because the food systems producing food accounts for 27% of total GHG emissions. And it's not only producing food, it's producing, consuming, and also disposing food. Those three things, they are 70% of total GHG emissions. So if we tackle this, if we reverse this tendency, the impact will be of 27% of total emissions. And that's major. That's not something that could be ignored. And it's very important that I also highlight to you that we are not telling you to become vegan or anything like that. No, that's not the case. We are not promoting any single diet over another. And this planet-based diets approach allows for different patterns based on geography, culture, tradition, availability, and also affordability. And of course, science has said to us that animal protein has to be diminished because of the impact they cause on the environment. So we're not telling you not to eat animal protein, but consider the information of science, and that we should eat more vegetables. I'm sure this is not new for you. Probably your mom has been telling you about the vegetables as much as myself. So this is not new, but we are going to show you a little bit more about this. So I said that the food system is 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, and they can also, in the moving to the biodiversity sphere, working with the food systems and planet-based diets, they can cut the food-related biodiversity loss by up to 46%. So they can also contribute to biodiversity. So the way you eat, the message here is be careful with the way you eat, mind what you eat, because that's a huge contribution that it could play there to climate change, to reversing climate change, and also reversing biodiversity loss. As I mentioned, we are not in the path to restoring this biodiversity that we lost so far, but we will be if we address not only diets, but diets, food loss, and waste. That will put us in a stabilization path. And if we address diets, food loss, waste, and production will be in a restoring path for biodiversity. So plant-based diets, planet-based diets are a choice that you can make, that you could play your own contribution to reversing both the climate and biodiversity loss. And then there is a tool that WWF has launched very recently in our website on planet-based diets. You can look for it. You can use it to select a country, and I put Brazil here as an example because this is my own country. And then you can select a type of diet. And I selected our current diet. I don't know if you know much about Brazil, but we are addicted to meat. Not me, because I've been a vegetarian now for 2 years, but meat, beef, plays a very important role in our diet. Probably you have heard about the Brazilian churrasco. It's a food that everybody loves. And then if you do that, you can select the foods that you want to eat, but you could also see the impacts that the diet would have if it was adopted by everyone in Brazil, for example. So when we look at the GHG emissions here, we could say that this diet choice, our normal diet choice of eating lots of beef, because that's the red in here, would cause 1,087 million CO2 equivalent emissions. So that's a lot. And that also impacts the cropland use here. If you can see, we need 42,965 hectares to produce the food to have a diet like this. So this provides to you a sense of the impact of what you're eating. And then if we do the same exercise here using, for example, vegetarian, which is the diet that I have more recently adopted, you see that there's a different impact here. You see that when we look at GHG emissions, those would be of 282 million tons of CO2 equivalent, as opposed to 1,087 if I was eating meat normally without reducing meat. So even reducing meat is a contribution that you could do. As I said before, our idea is not to convince anyone to change their diet, but at least look at it and know the impact of their diet. And the cropland use is also reduced from about 44,000 hectares to 36,405. So there is an impact that you can do with your own choices, your choices of what you eat, your choices of who you vote for, your choices of how you live. And the good news is that we are seeing some things change. We saw very recently China announce that they want to be net zero by 2060. We may see some change in the US position towards climate change. There is an opportunity for the EU to also enhance their targets. But my message here is that we shouldn't leave it only to governments. We shouldn't leave it only to the private sector, to industries, to businesses. Everyone has a role to play, my friends. If we want to have a stable future, if we want to have nature thriving for you and for your kids and for the next generations, and if we want to stay on the track to 1.5, everyone has a role to play. And that's what I wanted to highlight here in my presentation. You can always reach out to me for further questions, for more information, and also to Matt, who is already known by all of you. And I would also like to highlight the importance of this kind of initiative because, as I mentioned, spreading the word and also trying to translate the information from science and policy to broader audiences, to the ones that can and must make a difference, is also part of our mission, is something that's very dear to us and that we value very much at WWF. Thank you all for the attention and for the opportunity to be here today. I hope you understood my broken English. Apologies for my mistakes in doing this live, but that has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernanda. I have, hi, Cohen. I was going to ask if there's a time for me to show a little video.
So sorry
I think
for
I've just
interrupting.
to go ahead. No problem at all. Fantastic. So I'm just going to, if someone could bring in my shared screen with a video. So this is how we'd like to end. So I said before handing over to Fernanda for those fantastic words about the science and policy of climate change, that we are in a position where change is inevitable. Change as a result of climate change, change in order to deal with climate change. And with projects like this and in the classroom and on social media, the focus is often on the dangers of not changing, what we need to change to avert disaster. I think it's equally important that we also have in mind the wonderful future that we can create by solving these problems. So I want to end by showing you this video. It's from our Future Visions project. Some of you may have explored this in the classroom over the last few weeks. If you haven't, please do search for WWF Future Visions. And what we're inviting is the students to share their vision of the future, whether it's through video, whether it's through poetry, a poster, a drawing, a short story, a speech, whatever works for you, to be able to share your hopes for the future, so that we can guide policymakers and show them that actually we're demanding more. So I'm going to end by showing you one of those videos. It's by, so the video is by the makers of Our Planet and by the makers of the David Attenborough film, Silverback Films. There's computer-generated imagery in it, made by an artist called Eric Burnquist, and the words for this version are by a spoken word artist in the UK called Kay Tempest. And I hope you'll find it as powerful as I do.
Once upon a time, in a town much like your town, on a road much like your road, where the people lived and worked and passed their days much like the people that you know, there was a feeling in the air of dread. It was thick and dark, and it got into the mouths and eyes and lungs. Our mother is dying, said the dread. But wait, once upon a time, the story changed. It was not dread that tugged the people's sleeves, but possibility. The skies cleared over the city, and the sun came through in a blast of golden light, and we saw that we were standing on the crest of a mighty hill. Our view was panoramic, and we could see. This endless exploitation does not make us happy. This violent inequality destroys everybody's freedom. We know what mining does. We know what deforestation does. We know what plastic in the ocean does. We know what humans need. We know what nature needs. We could live differently. We could consider our minuteness in the natural scheme of things. We could fuel our lives in ways that are not harmful. We could build our cities so they are sustainable. We could encourage nature, not just to survive, but to flourish. If we made that our priority, the animals would begin to multiply. The oceans would recover. The people would remember how to feel simple things. It will never work, said exhaustion. Money makes the world go round, said dissatisfaction. If it doesn't turn a profit, it's never gonna happen, said shame. Grow up, said fear. Put up, said fear. Shut up, said fear. Isn't this the very reason we were born into this age, said courage? To make the huge transition that the age demands. Isn't that the weight you feel? The weight of changing ages? Why are you so afraid, said resolution? This is the only way, said love. Even as the cities roared, the children could be heard above the noise of the machines. I want to live in a world where I can breathe the air and drink the water, they said. I don't want the sea to boil or the forests to burn. I want to look at the rising sun with ancient wonder. I want to live in a world where the weather patterns are not deadly, where animals roam wild and are not just farmed for meat, where people have enough. I want to be a human being, not an agent of consumption. I was not born to spend. I am more than the sum of my data. I want to honor our planet. I want to live on our planet. I want to live. The time had come for a brand new story. Once upon a time, we were gifted with a present that was heavy. It was now.
Thank you, everyone. So I've shared the link. Hopefully that will be shared across to viewers for how you can join that competition and see that video and some of the other versions that we've got, including a beautiful version with a poem by Benjamin Zephaniah instead of K Tempest. And hopefully it will inspire you not only to think of your own visions of what that future could look like, but also perhaps to share it in some way, as K Tempest has, as the filmmakers have.
Thank you so much. We shared the link on the screen as well. And as always, thank you so much for these excellent presentations. We really enjoyed working with WWF International this time, as you know, Matt. Thank you so much, Fernanda, for sharing your presentation. And we hope that we continue working together. We really want to stress the fact that we think we really made a really good curriculum this time. So thank you so much, Matt and Sean, for your contributions. Climate change is complicated, and this curriculum gave me great insights into that. And you made it more comprehensive for the rest of the world. Thank you so much.